First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
The time has... Members, this is not...
The special session boils over with anger over congressional redistricting. The House debate derailed with a protest by some members forcing a break. When they started again, there were still shouts of protest as leadership rammed through votes. The House passed the governor's map along with measures targeting Disney. Welcome to WUFT News First at 5. I'm Liz Byro.
And I'm Meg Porterfield. Thanks for joining us.
The congressional map will be settled in the courts. The bill sets aside $1 million for the state's legal defense.
The move to strip Disney World of self-governance is just as messy. There are fears 2 counties and 2 cities could together be stuck with $1 billion of debt. Reporter Amy Kiley explains what's behind it all.
Hi, everybody. Mickey Mouse himself might be feeling less welcome in Florida right now.
What this is about Disney not recognizing that they are a guest in our state.
The mouse has ruled Magic Kingdom under the Reedy Creek Improvement Act for 55 years. But its CEO recently criticized Florida lawmakers for prohibiting schools from discussing sexual orientation and gender identity, especially in younger grades.
We wouldn't have been looking at special districts if Disney had not behaved the way they did. By doing that, we looked at it and we realized there was a problem.
Transgenderism injected into kindergarten classrooms, or woke gender ideology injected into second grade classroom. Why is that the hill to die on?
Some Florida Democrats say they're worried about economic blowback. The state estimated tourism generated about $100 billion in revenue in 2019 and supported more than 1.5 million jobs.
Reedy Creek has a budget of over $350 million. They have debt of almost $1 billion. Orange County, Central Florida residents would have to absorb all of that debt, and it is something that we cannot handle.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Later on in our Polititalk segment, we'll look at how area state representatives and state senators voted on the Disney bill.
You know, Liz, today we had another beautiful day of weather. The sun was shining.
Yes, we did. Here to tell us more about it is WUFT's Julia Haley with the weather forecast.
Yes, nothing but blue skies for our Thursday. Some clouds in sight, but overall a wonderful day. 79 degrees outside with those easterly winds. Those temperatures currently sitting in the upper 70s. 78 for Gainesville, 79 Ocala, 80 for the Villages. A little bit cooler here over around I-95, 75 St. Augustine, 78 for Daytona, and 77 for Jacksonville. Overall, a wonderful day to get outside. And on to our hour by hour, starting in the mid 70s, but dropping ever so slightly into the 60s, seeing the lower 60s by the morning and even the upper 50s with those mostly clear skies overall. Back to you.
A Florida bride and her caterer face felony charges after being accused of lacing food with marijuana at a wedding. As Orlando reporter Amanda Duke explains, a guest called 911 after feeling sick.
This is video Miranda Katie recorded of her friend 42-year-old Danya Shea Glennie getting married at the Springs in Longwood February 19th.
I just always respected her energy, her vibrance, her enthusiasm, and was really happy to celebrate this day with her.
Katie, a local realtor, knew Glennie as an accomplished businesswoman and never dreamed her attendance at her friend's wedding would turn into a nightmare.
I thought I was having a heart attack. You know, my heart was racing, and before I went to bed that night, I slept in my car that evening right there on site because I was too afraid.
According to the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, Katie and multiple guests at the wedding fell ill. One man who called 911 said he felt like he had drugs inside him, and several guests told first responders the food they'd eaten was laced with marijuana. Katie says a friend at her table suspected it.
But he's like, "Are we stoned right now?" And everyone's just kind of looking around each other laughing, and we absolutely were. We were high as a kite, all of us, out of our minds.
According to the incident report, deputies asked the bride and another unidentified person if they had put cannabis in the food, and the bride responded, No. But now, 2 months later, after detectives tested food items from the wedding, Glennie and her caterer, 31-year-old Jocelyn Bryant, have both been arrested and face felony charges of reckless tampering, culpable negligence, and possessing marijuana.
I don't know why. I think that is the biggest question on all of our minds. In speaking to some of the family members, I think people just want an explanation.
Katie says some wedding guests have been unwilling to speak out.
I know so many of my friends who wouldn't want me speaking with you, but I think it's so important that people stand up for what's right. And, you know, you have to respect other people's free will and boundaries and option to have a choice in something like that.
The reporter reached out to the bride and caterer, but did not get a response.
The FBI is warning farmers about the threat of cybercrime. The warning says cyber criminals might go after agriculture cooperatives during planting and harvesting seasons, believing they could be more vulnerable and willing to pay off the extortion. The FBI says 6 grain companies were targeted last fall and 2 others have been targeted this year. They're calling on farmers to take defensive measures against this potential threat.
In economic news, initial jobless claims dropped slightly last week. The estimate of 184,000 is about 2,000 less than the previous week. Continuing claims are at their lowest level since February of 1970. The numbers indicate that job openings outnumber the available labor pool by about 5 million.
Ocala's horse industry is making an economic comeback as the coronavirus subsides.
WUFT's Jake Reyes joins us now to take us to Ocala breeder sales to learn about the rise in horse purchases. Good evening, Jake.
Yes, Megan and Liz, Ocala's horse industry is making an economic comeback because people are back out and about. I talked to Ocala breeders and locals to learn about the rise in horse buying. Business is booming in the horse capital of the world. For 2 years, the largest industry in Ocala took a hit as the pandemic stinted in-person horse sales due to travel limitations. But now, people from all over the world are riding their way to Ocala breeder sales as coronavirus issues fade away. Ocala breeder sales director Todd Wojciechowski says the company is having its largest sale of the year. He says Tuesday was the largest group of international buyers the company has hosted since 2020.
People from all over the world will be here, from the Middle East to Japan, Australia, Europe. They'll all be here purchasing horses. Before the pandemic, traveling to Ocala for horses brought in over $90 million in revenue to Marion County. The industry helped local businesses like restaurants gain sales from travelers. And the number of people that we bring to town is tremendous as far as hotels, restaurants, and services here in town. Ocala International Airport Director Matthew Groh says there has been a massive increase in arriving flights at OIA compared to last year. Aside from horse bargaining, he says the rise is due to a lower amount of coronavirus cases and restrictions from 2021.
We saw a huge amount of traffic coming in for the sale. We got to a point where the apron behind us, where the apron is where the aircraft park, it got to the point where we literally ran out of space.
Horse sales are expected to pick up again later this month as the Kentucky Derby unfolds in May. Groh says Ocala is looking to expand the airport to allow more cargo flights for horses. Back to you.
Thanks, Jake. It's time for another edition of Polititalk.
That's right, Liz. Coming up after the break, we look ahead to the 2024 decision.